They didn't expect her to touch the key, let alone take the car. The heat that day in Lagos didn't feel like weather. It felt like a challenge. The air shimmered over the courtyard tiles of Andurch Technologies, rising like a curtain pulled back before a performance. Everything was too bright. The sun hit the glass walls of the headquarters so hard, they reflected fire. It was as if the whole world had stopped to watch someone burn. And it had. Employees stood still, frozen halfway through their day. Some with takeaway coffee cups halfway to their mouths. Some with bags still in hand. Security guards had stopped scanning car plates. Receptionists had come out into the sun, shading their eyes with perfectly manicured hands. Phones were lifted. Videos were already recording. Something unusual was happening. At the center of it all, Andrew Adams stood like a man used to being obeyed. CEO, tech billionaire, Lagos royalty in a navy blue CF10 suit and a red designer cap. Not a hair out of place. Not a single emotion on his face. He was the kind of man whose silence was louder than other people's yelling. When he walked into a room, people didn't greet him, they straightened. In his right hand, held slightly above eye level, was a car key. In his left, nothing. He didn't need anything else. Drive this car, he said, his voice flat but loud. And it's yours. Everyone gasped. Not because they didn't believe him. Andrew didn't joke. That was the problem. The car behind him was a jet black Rolls-Royce, so new it still smelled like an unopened luxury store. It looked like wealth, but more than that, it looked like punishment. It was parked carelessly in the middle of the compound, boxed in by concrete flower beds, pillars, parked staff cars, and a narrow steel gate. There was hardly space to turn a tricycle, much less a luxury car that cost more than a house. One scratch, one bump, one wrong move, and you'd pay for it, maybe with your job, maybe with your freedom. And facing that impossible trap was a woman who looked like she didn't belong. Monica Abraham, 36, single mother. Her brown gown was torn at the seam, the bottom stained with red dust, the kind that clings to your poverty. Her slippers were thin and cracked. Her hair was a nest of forgetfulness. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but they were still eyes that had once seen better days. You could tell. She didn't speak. She had spoken enough already. Inside the building, on her knees, begging Andrew to help pay her daughter's school fees. Michelle was her only child. Final year. Almost expelled. Monica had said she didn't want her daughter to stop school like she did. Andrew had barely looked up. Then he had laughed. That kind of soft, rich person laugh. The one that says, "You're beneath me, but I'm amused." Now, in front of the whole company, he was giving her a chance. A game. If she could turn his car without damaging it, she could keep it. And if not, if you scratch it, he said, you're going to jail. He said it with the same voice someone might use to say, "Please be careful with my cup." Calm. Empty. Final. People in the crowd whispered. She only came to ask for help. Why is he humiliating her like this? She looks familiar, though. But nobody moved. Nobody interfered. Empathy was outnumbered by curiosity. Andrew stretched the key toward her like it was bait. Take it, if you can drive. Monica stood still. Her chest rose and fell. Her fingers twitched. Then, she stepped forward. The sun bounced off the car. Sweat rolled down her back. But she didn't blink. She reached out and took the key from his hand. Gasps rippled through the staff. Someone muttered, "She's mad, oh." But Andrew's face didn't change. He expected her to try. He expected her to fail. He expected to enjoy watching her fail. Monica walked toward the Rolls-Royce. Her torn gown moved with the wind. Her footsteps echoed on the tiles. Her hand touched the car door like she was touching a piece of her past. She opened it, slipped in. The door shut with a soft, expensive click, and the world outside went quiet. Inside, the air was cool. Leather. Wood. Silence. It smelled like another life. She placed her hands on the steering wheel, and suddenly, the memory returned. Not a memory of tears, or hunger, or rejection. No, she remembered gloves, race suits, helmets, a roaring crowd, a sharp turn on a track in Monaco. She remembered speed, danger, victory. She remembered who she was. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Not now. Outside, Andrew watched, arms folded. "Start," he said. She pressed the ignition. The car purred. The crowd leaned forward. She adjusted the mirrors. Glanced left, right. Calculated. Then, she moved. Slow. Clean. No panic. The car slid backward like it was gliding on butter. She angled it perfectly, brushing past a pillar without a millimeter of space to spare. She twisted the wheel again, shifted, reversed, moved forward, reversed again. Andrew's eyes narrowed. This wasn't luck. In less than a minute, the Rolls-Royce faced the gate. Undamaged. Perfect. She stopped the engine, opened the door, and stepped out, still in her torn gown, still barefoot, but suddenly, powerful. Silence. Then one clap. Then another. Then a wave of applause louder than the traffic on the expressway. Someone shouted, "Gotta beg." Someone else screamed, "She did it, oh." The staff, one by one, erupted in celebration. Secretaries, security guards, cleaners, engineers. Everyone who had doubted her now clapped like they had always believed. And Andrew? He just stared, like he was seeing a ghost. "Who are you?" he asked, voice low. She turned. Her voice was soft, but steady. "My name is Monica Abraham," she said. "I was not always poor. I was a Formula One driver." The courtyard exploded. What? No wonder. Even the ones who had laughed before now looked stunned. But Monica's face didn't show pride. Only pain. "I was framed," she said, "and deported." Andrew took a step forward. The game was over. But something deeper had just started. Before he could speak, his personal assistant, Daniel, came running from the building. "Sir, it's about your late wife's case." The entire crowd froze. Andrew's face changed. Monica looked at him. And in that moment, for the first time, he looked unsure. The story was no longer about a Rolls-Royce. It was just beginning. Andrew Adam had made billions predicting outcomes, staying in control, and never being surprised. But that afternoon, as he stood in the melting heat of the Andrich compound surrounded by stunned employees, his world shifted. The crowd wasn't looking at him anymore. They were looking at her. Monica Abraham. The woman in a torn gown who had just driven his Rolls-Royce through an impossible challenge like it was child's play. The same woman he had mocked, publicly, minutes ago. Now she stood calmly, key in hand, while the whispers around them crackled like electricity. And then came her words. "I was not always poor. I was a Formula One driver." Andrew's mouth didn't move, but his mind reeled. He had challenged her to humiliate her, to teach her a lesson about pity, about asking for help without earning it. But she had flipped the script. And now, before he could recover, his assistant, Daniel, came running. "Sir, it's about your late wife's case." The energy shifted. Andrew's face darkened. His wife, Amaka, had died 6 years ago. Her car accident had been labeled unfortunate. But Andrew had never found peace in that word. "What about her?" he asked, voice tight. Daniel slowed. The staff around them were still watching. "Monica too. Maybe we should go inside." "No," Monica said quietly. "You can say it here." Andrew glanced at her. There was something strange about the way she said it. Almost like she'd heard news like this before. Hard news. Life-changing news. And survived it. He gave Daniel a nod. "They found something," Daniel said. The private investigator followed up on the mechanic who last worked on Madam's car. "He's disappeared. Vanished after being paid off, possibly." "Sir, it might not have been an accident." A murmur rippled through the thinning crowd. Andrew stared at the ground, jaw tightening. He didn't speak right away. Then he looked up, straight into Monica's eyes. "You said you were framed." She didn't flinch. "Yes. I want to hear it all." Monica hesitated, not because she was afraid to speak, but because she wasn't sure anyone would believe her again. But something about the way Andrew looked at her now, it was different. Not curious, not skeptical. He was listening. She nodded. "I was born in Nigeria, in Abeokuta, but I left when I was young. My uncle got a job in Johannesburg. That's where I started kart racing, at 15. I was fast. People noticed. By 21, I was signed to a South African F1 development team. I trained. I rose. I started winning." She paused. Too much. The crowd was silent. "My manager, Collins, said I was arrogant. But what really happened was, I found out he was manipulating outcomes, paying race officials, fixing results. I confronted him, told him I would go public." Her voice dropped. 2 weeks later, I crashed. High-speed corner. Brakes failed. I survived. Another driver was seriously injured. She inhaled shakily. They blamed me. Said I tampered with the car. There were fake documents. Forged wire transfers in my name. Audio recordings. Everything. The media destroyed me. Sponsors dropped me. I was deported. Someone whispered, Jesus. I came back to Nigeria with nothing but my daughter and 2 suitcases. My husband, he died trying to withdraw cash for our rent. Armed robbery. I watched my life collapse piece by piece. I've been cleaning, driving Kiki, doing whatever I can just to keep Michelle in school. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. I came here today because I was desperate, and because I hoped, maybe just once someone might see me. Andrew was quiet. Everyone was. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Daniel stepped forward. Sir, we need a new driver. Since Mr. Sunday retired. Still, Andrew didn't speak. His mind was moving too fast. What was it about her? The control she had behind the wheel? The stillness when the pressure was highest? Or the fact that while he had tried to test her pride, she had revealed his shame? He finally spoke. You didn't just drive that car. Monica looked up. You drove it like someone who had nothing to prove, and everything to lose. He turned slightly, raising his voice just enough for the last few spectators to hear. Everyone, back to work. They hesitated. I said go. The command dropped like a hammer. Phones went away. Mouths shut. Within seconds, the courtyard emptied, leaving only Monica, Andrew, and Daniel. Andrew turned to her. This car is yours. I made a promise. Monica's mouth opened, but no words came. And from today, he continued, you're my official driver. Full salary, full security clearance, uniforms, and you and your daughter, he paused, will no longer live in that shanty. Her eyes widened. You'll move into the guest quarters at the mansion. Daniel nodded, already pulling out his phone. I'll make arrangements. Monica blinked hard. Sir, I don't know what to. Say nothing, Andrew said. You've earned it. Later that evening, the marble floors of Andrew's mansion reflected the fading golden light of the setting sun. Monica stood near the grand staircase, barefoot, stunned. Her gown had been gently hand-washed and ironed by one of the housekeepers. Her hair combed by someone she didn't even know. Michelle had her own room, with a bed, with a door that locked, with a lamp that worked. Mommy, she squealed, running into Monica's arms. Are we dreaming? Monica held her tightly. No, baby. Not this time. Michelle looked around, eyes wide. That car outside, the big one. Monica nodded slowly. It's ours now. They both cried, standing in a home that once would have turned them away at the gate. Upstairs, Andrew stood at the balcony, hands in his pockets, watching them quietly. A strange warmth stirred in his chest. He didn't smile. Not yet. But something in him softened. He had tried to teach her a lesson. Instead, she had reminded him what dignity looks like, what strength is, what survival feels like. He turned away, but he wasn't the only one watching. From the far end of the hallway, Catherine stood in the shadows. Andrew's cousin, house manager, polished, cold, efficient. She had run his home like a fortress for years, and she had just seen something she didn't like. A stranger in their space. A woman in slippers standing where family should stand. Her lips curled slightly. She won't last long, she whispered. And with that, she disappeared into the dark. The silence in the mansion had a weight to it. Not comfort, not luxury. It was the kind of silence that made Monica feel like she was being measured, like invisible eyes were watching her every move, judging whether she belonged here, or whether this was all some grand mistake that would be corrected any moment now. The bed she woke in was too soft, the air too cool, the curtains too thick. Michelle was still asleep in the room next to hers, curled under a white duvet in a bed she'd only seen in magazines before this. Monica stood in front of the mirror. Her eyes had bags under them, not from lack of sleep, but from years of carrying too much. Her black uniform was neatly pressed, the sleeves tailored to fit her arms perfectly. The white shirt underneath was stiff with starch. Her old slippers were gone. Everything about her looked new, except for her eyes. She still didn't trust this life. Not fully. Downstairs, the sound of footsteps echoed against marble floors. She walked out of the room and down the corridor, careful not to touch anything. There were too many things here that looked like they cost more than her entire past. She passed giant paintings, chandeliers, vases she didn't dare breathe near. In the driveway, the Rolls-Royce was already waiting. Its surface glinted beneath the early morning sun, polished and proud. She exhaled, walked to it slowly. Her hands rested on the hood. Thank you, she whispered. And then, without a sound, another voice spoke from above. You're up early. Monica looked up. Catherine stood on the upstairs balcony, dressed in a gold-trimmed robe, her arms folded, holding a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. "Good morning, Ma," Monica said politely. Catherine's expression didn't change. "This isn't a hotel, you know. People notice when you're up before the staff. I just wanted to be early. I didn't want to disappoint." That, said everything. Catherine turned and walked away. Monica exhaled again, this time slower. It wasn't just the mansion that didn't feel safe. It was the people inside it. Especially her. At 7:55 a.m., Monica heard footsteps behind her. Andrew walked out of the main house, speaking into his phone, already in business mode. His light gray suit was sharp, his black sunglasses dangling from his fingers. He looked like someone ready to conquer the day. But when he saw her, standing calmly by the Rolls-Royce, he paused. "Good morning, Monica." "Good morning, sir," she said, eyes steady. He studied her for a moment. "You look different today." She gave a faint smile. "Maybe because last night I didn't have to sleep with one eye open." That caught him off guard. For a second, he smiled too. "Well, let's hope that's permanent." She opened the door for him. He nodded and climbed in. She moved to the driver's side, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway with smooth precision. The gate opened. Lagos traffic was already building, but Monica navigated it like water parting around her. Andrew sat in the back, quiet at first. But halfway through the drive, he leaned forward slightly. "Monica, I owe you something." She glanced at the rearview mirror. "Sir, an apology." He sounded sincere. "I turned your desperation into a performance. I made you prove yourself in front of strangers. That wasn't about the car. That was about my pride." She didn't speak immediately. "Then, you didn't know me. That doesn't excuse it." He paused. "You remind me of my wife." Monica kept her eyes on the road. She was strong too. Humble. Determined. People underestimated her, and she let them, until it was time to show them. "What happened to her?" "She died. 6 years ago. Car crash. Brakes failed, they said. But something always felt off." Monica didn't reply, but she felt the weight in his voice. Andrew leaned back. "She would have liked you." The rest of the ride was quiet. But something had shifted. Not just in the car. In him. In her. That evening, the mansion was too still. Monica sat in her room, helping Michelle with a homework question about chemical equations. The girl's eyes were bright, her smile quick, her voice calm. For the first time in months, she looked like a child again. But Monica's mind was elsewhere. Something was wrong. She felt it in her bones. A knock at the door interrupted them. Before she could respond, Catherine walked in. No greeting. Just presence. "Your daughter's dinner is being served downstairs," she said, her tone flat. "Andrew wants to speak with you after." Monica nodded. "Thank you, Ma." Catherine's eyes moved slowly across the room. "This won't last forever, you know." Monica blinked. "Ma, this fairy tale, this house, this job, it's all built on someone else's generosity. Don't forget that." "I haven't." "Good. Then don't act like you belong." She left without waiting for a reply. Monica sat still for a long moment. Michelle placed her hand on hers. "Mommy, are you okay?" Monica smiled weakly. "I'm fine, baby. Go eat." Later that night, Catherine stormed into Andrew's office, slamming a file on his desk. "You need to see this." Andrew looked up, annoyed. "What is it?" "Monica." She said the name like it tasted sour. He opened the folder. Inside were printed photos. Grainy images. Headlines. Court documents. A mugshot. Former F1 driver accused of fraud. Monica Abraham banned from international racing. Evidence of tampered car. Andrew's expression didn't change, but his hands stopped moving. "Where did you get this?" "From someone who knew her in South Africa. She's not who you think she is." He stared at the photos. "She told me she was framed." Catherine scoffed. "They all say that." He closed the folder. "I want to hear it from her. And what if she lies again? Then I'll deal with it. But if she's telling the truth, you'll owe her more than an apology." Catherine hesitated. "You're making a mistake." Andrew stood. "And you're pushing too hard." But the seed was planted. The doubt had entered. And that night, Andrew couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every word Monica had said. And meanwhile, in a quiet room across the mansion, Monica sat by the window, unable to rest. Something in her told her she was about to fight for her life all over again. She didn't know when. She didn't know how. But someone in this house wanted her gone. The rain began before dawn. Not the loud, angry kind. The quiet kind. Gentle. Persistent. It tapped the mansion windows like soft fingers. But for Monica, it wasn't comforting. It was a signal. She woke suddenly, her breath sharp, body tense before her mind could explain why. Something was wrong. She sat up in the darkness, blinking. The room was quiet, but her chest was tight. Her instincts, honed through years of loss, betrayal, and survival, were whispering, "Watch your back." She stepped to the window. The world outside was gray. The Rolls-Royce was already slick with water. Palm leaves sagged under the weight of rain. In the far corner of the compound, a security light flickered. In the room next to hers, Michelle still slept. Monica turned back from the window and sat on the edge of the bed. Something felt off. The silence in the mansion wasn't calm. It was staged. She didn't know it yet, but the stage was set for her fall. Downstairs, Catherine was already awake. She walked briskly from the surveillance room to the kitchen, whispering to staff. She had spent the night reviewing footage, selecting clips, rehearsing her concern. Her plan was ready. She had tried words, warnings, distance, but none of it worked. Monica was still here. Now she would try something else. At 7 a.m., Monica helped Michelle prepare for school. They shared a quiet breakfast in the corner of the massive dining room, just the two of them. None of the other staff sat near them. Even the cook, who had smiled the day before, avoided eye contact. Monica noticed. Before Michelle left, Monica kissed her forehead gently. "Be brave today," she said. Michelle tilted her head. "Why, Mommy? What's happening?" Monica forced a smile. "Nothing. I just want you to be your best." But the unease in her voice didn't go unnoticed. Michelle gave her a hug. "You too." At 7:45 a.m., Monica walked into the garage. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with something heavier than humidity. She adjusted her collar and approached the Rolls-Royce, preparing for another day of work. That's when she saw them. Catherine, already standing by the car, arms folded, her expression hard as granite. And behind her, Andrew. He wasn't smiling. "Monica," he said, "come with me." She followed him silently through the mansion, heart pounding. Staff eyes followed her through the hall. Their silence was louder than whispers. They entered his office. Daniel was there already, standing beside the large screen on the wall. Monica stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. Andrew didn't sit. He stood by the screen, clicked the remote. A video began to play. Security footage. Black and white. Grainy, but clear enough. It showed Monica entering Andrew's study in the middle of the night. The timestamp read, 12:41 a.m. She looked around, walked slowly to his desk, reached into her pocket, pulled out a small item, a flash drive, and placed it down. Then she turned and left. No sound, no explanation, just 15 seconds. Andrew turned to her. His voice was neutral, too neutral. "What were you doing in my study last night?" Monica felt her throat tighten. "I left something." "A flash drive," she said quietly. "It's proof." "Proof of what?" "My past. Everything I told you. The sabotage. The fraud. Voice notes. Photos. I put it there because I didn't know how else to convince you." His eyes didn't move. "And why not tell me first?" "I was going to," she said. "But you were asleep. And I was afraid you'd ask me to leave before I could show you." The room was tense. Then Catherine walked in, hands clasped in fake composure. "I saw the footage this morning," she said, voice like ice. "We caught her just in time. Imagine what could have been stolen." Andrew didn't look at her. "Monica," he said, more quietly now, "I want to believe you. But it doesn't look good." Monica stepped forward, tears rising. "Please, sir. I'm telling the truth." Andrew turned to Daniel. "Get the full security footage. Every angle. Show me everything." Catherine's composure cracked. "That won't be necessary," she said quickly. Andrew turned to her sharply. "It is now." She swallowed but said nothing. 20 minutes passed in silence. Daniel returned with the footage. He connected the hard drive. The screen blinked to life again. First, it played what they had already seen, Monica entering the study, placing the flash drive, leaving. Then the footage from another angle. 10 minutes later, Catherine entering the same study. Alone. She looked around, moved to the desk, took out her phone, hit record. Then she staged the angle, framed the flash drive in the shot, paused, zoomed, and left. The room went dead silent. Andrew slowly turned toward her. "You recorded this, then gave me an edited clip." Catherine opened her mouth. I was protecting you." "No." he said, voice colder than ever. You were protecting your pride. Her lips parted. She's not who she says. You knew the full truth, and you tried to bury it. He looked at Monica now. Her eyes glistened. Her hands trembled. He walked over, picked up the flash drive from his desk, plugged it into his laptop. He opened the folder. Voice recordings, screenshots, photos, emails, bank transfer records, threats from her former manager, tampered contracts, evidence, all of it. It wasn't just proof. It was the story she had carried in silence for years, and she had handed it over without asking for anything in return. Andrew closed the laptop gently, then turned to Catherine. Pack your things. Her eyes widened. What? You don't live here anymore. Andrew, you lied. You manipulated. And you nearly destroyed an innocent woman. Catherine's voice broke. She doesn't belong in this house. She belongs more than you do, he said. She's earned every brick. Monica let out a small gasp, covering her mouth. Tears spilled freely now, not of pain, but of release. Andrew turned to her. I'm sorry, he said softly. And this time, she believed him. The rain outside had stopped, but inside, something had finally broken open. Not a storm. Justice. It didn't feel like an ending. Not yet. Catherine was gone. Her room cleared, her name erased from the house staff list. The silence left behind wasn't peaceful. It was wounded, like the mansion itself was trying to figure out what had just happened. Monica didn't feel victorious. Not really. She'd survived another trap, another humiliation, but survival wasn't triumph. It was just survival. What lingered in her chest was not pride, it was exhaustion. For years, she had been hunted by a lie. That she was a fraud. That she was reckless. That she didn't belong in the world she once conquered. That lie had followed her across countries, through poverty, grief, widowhood. It had almost taken her daughter's future. Almost taken her voice. And now, finally, it had been dragged into the light. But now what? That night, she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Still wearing the black uniform. Still the house driver. But something was different now. Michelle entered quietly. Mommy. Monica turned. Yes, baby. The girl hesitated. They said Catherine left. For good. Monica nodded. Does that mean we're safe now? Safe. The word felt heavy. I don't know, Monica said softly. But we're not hiding anymore. Michelle nodded slowly, then hugged her tight. I'm proud of you. Monica closed her eyes. I'm trying to be someone you can be proud of. You already are. They stayed like that for a long time. The next day, something shifted. The house was brighter. Staff greeted her differently. No longer with doubt. With respect. A few even smiled as she passed. One security guard gave a soft salute as she walked toward the garage. Andrew was waiting beside the Rolls-Royce. But today, he wasn't wearing his usual armor. No suit. Just a shirt and slacks. No sunglasses. He looked human. Good morning, he said. Monica nodded. Good morning, sir. He smiled faintly. Still, sir? She gave a dry look. You're still my boss. Fair. He opened the car door himself and slid into the back. Monica started the engine and pulled out of the mansion like always. But today, the silence in the car felt different. Warmer. They were halfway to Anderch when he finally spoke. I've been thinking about your file. Monica's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. All those documents, he continued. Voice messages. Screenshots. You've been holding on to them for how long? 6 years, she said. You could have sent them to the media. Or gone public. You didn't. I tried once, she admitted. No one listened. I decided to wait. To find someone who would. He was quiet. I'm sorry it had to be me, he said. And that it took so long. Monica gave a small, tired smile. I stopped hoping a long time ago. You shouldn't have had to. Another silence. Then he said, I want to offer you something. She looked in the mirror. Go on. A new role. Head of Anderch Transport and Safety. It's a division we're building to oversee all logistics, drivers, company vehicles, training, protocols. She stared at the road. I'm a driver, Andrew. You're a leader, he said. You understand people. You understand risk. And unlike most of our execs, you actually know what it means to lose everything and still show up on time. Her throat tightened. You don't have to answer now, he added. But the offer's real. Can I think about it? Of course. But she already knew the answer. 3 days later, the announcement went public. Andrew stood before a small crowd of press, staff, and shareholders on the steps of the Anderch building. Behind him, The company's massive logo shimmered in the sun. Today, he said, we make a correction, not just to our internal structure, but to the narrative we've let grow unchecked. Today, we're giving voice to someone who's earned it. He turned. Monica stepped forward, dressed not in her black driver's uniform, but in a crisp navy blue suit. Minimal makeup, hair cleanly styled. She looked like she belonged on every boardroom wall in Lagos. Andrew nodded. This is Monica Abraham. She is the new director of transport and safety for Anders Group, and she is proof that truth doesn't just survive, it rises. Applause followed. Microphones clicked on. Journalists shouted questions. Miss Monica, is it true you were deported under false charges? Yes, she answered, steady. Will you be taking legal action against your former team? She paused. I'm considering it. But right now, my focus is building something better. What do you say to young women watching you right now? She looked directly at the cameras. I say, don't let shame name you. Don't let powerful people define your story. If you've been wronged, fight back. If you've been silent, speak. And if no one believes you, she smiled faintly. Prove them wrong without saying a word. The applause was louder this time. Even the reporters clapped. That night, the mansion glowed. Not from wealth, from warmth. The staff gathered for dinner, an actual dinner, together at the long table. Daniel joked loudly. The security chief brought palm wine. Michelle sat beside Monica, giggling as Andrew tried, and failed, to balance a plate on his lap. It was a new house now. Not perfect, but not poisoned. Monica stepped onto the balcony later that night. The city lights below shimmered like stars had fallen to earth. The air was soft, clean. Andrew joined her. He stood beside her quietly. Are you happy? He asked. I don't know what that word means yet. He nodded. Fair. She turned to him. Why did you believe me? Finally. He looked at her carefully. Because you didn't beg. You stood. And because when I looked at you, I saw a mirror of who I used to be, before I started thinking money made me better than people. She looked down at her hands. I don't want to owe you. You don't. He paused. But there's something else I want to ask. She raised an eyebrow. Andrew reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Monica froze. Before you panic, he said, just listen. She blinked. I've had everything, he said. Power, property, status. And yet I haven't known peace in 6 years. Until you walked in and told me the truth I didn't want to hear. He opened the box. A simple ring. No diamonds. Just silver. Monica Abraham. Will you drive this life with me? Her eyes widened. Andrew, you don't have to answer now, or even soon. But I mean it. Behind them, Michelle's voice called from inside. Say yes, Mommy. Monica laughed through her tears. And maybe for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she had to choose between love and dignity. She looked at Andrew, then at the stars, then at the hands that had once held a steering wheel on a foreign racetrack, and now held a child's future, a company's trust, and a second chance. She whispered, I'll drive, but I choose the direction. Andrew smiled. Deal.